you all for being part of the nation. Let's talk about this. Can the Dallas Cowboys repeat? That's the name of the game, right? The NFC East champs. Can they repeat? It's been a long time and a long time since the Cowboys repeated, and that's something that we really have to talk about. The NFC East is loaded. Regardless of how you look at it, of course, you can say, well, Law, who are you talking about, man? The NFC East not loaded. I mean, the Giants are crying out loud. They're nobody. It's nobody. They're a team of nobody. And then on top of that, you can talk about the Redskins, and you can say, man, they don't fear anybody. You don't fear the Redskins. Come on now. What are you talking about, Law? And what I'm trying to say here is that we like the SEC. We play each other's tough. We are a grimish type of division. We have some crazy talent from A to Z as it relates to our teams. Of course, we have some hiccups here and there, but that's just the natural flow. That's just the natural flavor of football. But it is what it is. So let's listen in to them, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts. Okay, let's go, Coach. Let's go.
Just in time for Sean McVay's wedding, we should go down like a diet plan.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll all be invited.
New box challenge.
About to be
wine box.
Is that what it is? Okay. And then wine box.
Everly block.
Tons, yeah?
Let's just do it, and let's keep it in the NFC East where we started. The Eagles won
Appreciate
4
you
straight
guys. Thank
division
y'all for
titles
tuning in.
between 2001 and 2004, and since then, no NFC East teams repeated as division champs. Will the Cowboys put an end to the streak this season, or is it somebody else's turn to wear that crown?
I'm going to say the Cowboys. I love what they did last year. And if you look at with what Dak Prescott has done in his career so far, first year, he goes blow for blow with Aaron Rodgers in that playoff game. Takes the L. Second year has a little bit of a drop-off, a lot of people say. You contribute most of that to Ezekiel Elliott not starting that season. And then last year, takes another step, gets to the playoff, wins the playoff game. And I feel like this year they continue to step in the right direction. So for me, I feel like Dak Prescott, with everything we keep talking about, and I keep bringing it up until these contracts are figured out, you have 3 individuals. This is the first time in a long time, maybe the first time of its kind, where your 3 best players are all up for big money deals, which means they are more motivated than ever. Usually it's one guy, maybe 2 guys.
Well, let me say this right here, Cowboy Nation. When we look into what he's saying is that everybody is loaded, right? The contract is up, a lot of things is due, and if we have to figure out to ourselves, can this team find a way to repeat? And he's leaning more towards the side of saying, hey, I feel deep down in my heart that the Cowboys will repeat just off of sheer talent and what they showed last year. And then on top of that, the growth factor. I've been telling a lot of people down the line that Dak Prescott, all he's going to do is get better, inch by inch, day by day, one movement at a time, one day at a time. The guy is learning the craft. And then on top of that, if you add in the fact what Scott Linehan was doing, right? I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or anything, but let's be real about it. Let's just be real about it. Scott Linehan didn't help Dak Prescott to the extreme levels. But what we look at from here is that Dak Prescott never had a losing season. That speaks volumes there, guys. That speaks a lot of volumes. Let's listen to what they have to say.
But when you have your quarterback, your running back, and your wide receiver all up for the big bag, contracts are getting crazy these days, these guys will play lights out. So that's the reason why I feel like they're more motivated than ever and will end this streak and continue to be the division champs.
Worried at all that there might be some tension with that? Instead, like, you're looking at a very optimistic side of 3 guys wanting to get paid. There's no negative side to it?
No, if I would have seen or heard something out of these guys through the course of their career, then maybe I would think that or see that. But look at Amari. Amari, he literally doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to play football, and I know I'm going to get money.
Can you imagine Troy, Irv, and Emmett back in the day?
Oh, that's a different question. Different question.
That's totally different. This is when I'm supposed to start screaming about the Eagles and say, Nate, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I think the Eagles are going to go to the playoffs. I think the Cowboys are going to win the division. Because I'll tell you, if they don't, something went wrong.
Shout out to the guy. He said he think the Eagles, they still good. A lot of people think that the Eagles are going to be trash, but I'm thinking they are still good. Shout out to the Eagles. And shout out to Tom Jasper as well as in the chat box. He says, what's up, Law? He's finna turn 40 in a couple days. Okay. Hey, I can't wait either, man. They say life starts at 40, right? So you finna start your life, right?
Wrong.
Let's go.
Like either Jason Garrett or Kellen Moore didn't work out, or they had a cataclysmic injury. This is the year. We're talking about the triplets back in the 90s. This is the most exciting offseason for the Dallas Cowboys in 24 years. There's no reason. They got everything. And I think it's great that they got everything cheap, too. I mean, guys, this is the season. I've been waiting my whole adult life for the Cowboys to have the season. Yeah. This is it. It was always, with Romo, was always, I don't know if he's got it in the playoffs. I just don't know. They got the horses. The defense is awesome. They got the coach who's already been there. There's not a new coach. If they can't win the division and go deep in the playoffs this year, what are we waiting for? What are we doing? I don't know. This is the year.
Are we on July 8th here, switching roles, and I'm going to defend the Eagles?
Do it. You got it?
Well,
they're loaded, okay? They're loaded.
There's just not a hole in their game. On defense, they're stout. Their offensive line's great. They added deep threats. Deshaun Jackson's back in action, which is a nice little throwback that'll be helpful. They've got Ertz. They've got lots of guys to throw the ball to. And, you know, if we're going to compare quarterbacks then. Do I trust Wentz if he can stay on the field? I have questions about Wentz, but clearly...
She have her reservations about Carson Wentz, and all of the Eagles fans out there, I bet you somewhere deep down in their small minds and their hearts, they have reservations on Carson Wentz as well. They may not come out on record and saying it, but we know, Cowboy Nation, we know that they're not all the way in on Carson, although they paid the man over $30-some million. But we will see how that all going to trickle down the line. My thing is, they said that there's no weaknesses on the Eagles side, and I hear that a lot of the Eagles fans and they have the best offensive line, they have the best this and best that. Oh, did you guys realize that the Eagles cornerbacks, defensive backs, is that not a weakness? You guys can feel you. I feel you what you're saying, Eagles fans. But man, you guys didn't address that DB side of the ball. And I can say this. All Amari Cooper is going to do is get better. You can say, okay, it was luck, but you just don't look up and throw for 455 yards. I don't care if you had your grandmama, cousin, uncle out there. You just don't go out there in the National Football League and pass for 455 yards. And then the cookie to that whole puzzle will be this right here. Dak Prescott did that without his offensive line. Didn't they? They didn't have a Travis Frederick out there. Zach Martin was hurt. And then on top of that, they had to put my guy, big number 77, on the bench. So Dak Prescott threw for 455 yards without his starting offensive line. So if I'm the mighty Philadelphia Eagles, if we can say that, oh my goodness, then you guys got to have a cause for pause for that defensive backs that you guys got. And if you think, for crying out loud, your safety is going to be able to save you, we got the guys with the short area quickness, Randall Cobbs of the world. And it's crazy out here, Cowboy Nation, when you start looking at the game and start reviewing the tape and you say, okay, with 455 yards, anybody can do that. Okay. Pappy Goat says, I think we will repeat. The Eagles will be behind us. Yes, I feel you on that. Yes, indeed. Let's go, Cowboy Nation.
Clearly the Eagles don't, because they broke him off big when they didn't even have to. Yeah. So their faith in him gives me faith in what they can do. So I just feel like I trust Wentz a little bit more than Dak, and they'll take the crown.
It's
I like that.
Awesome
the lady.
competition.
The lady saying she
just
trusts.
played is strong. He's a higher ceiling than Dak. I think a Cowboys fan would respond, though, that we're just going to pound Zeke, and our defense might even be better. It's a pick 'em. It really is.
Kellen Moore, though, versus, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of questions with Dak and company.
There's a big X factor. All right, so I have a question.
Let me see what
for the table. And it's fitting for this time of the year, this point in the offseason. Let's look ahead to the Super Bowl.
I'm not even going to entertain that. I'm not even going to go ahead and start talking about Super Bowl talk. I'm talking about one day at a time. And then we're talking about, several games at a time. We want to get to the playoff first before we start talking about Super Bowls. But you can put Dallas Cowboys in there all you want. Yeah, I love to hear that. My thing is on the lady saying that you can trust Carson Wentz more than you can trust Dak Prescott. How can you trust Carson over Dak Prescott? How many games did Dak Prescott miss? Somebody put that in the chat box. Help a brother out. Help me. Somebody put that in the chat box. How many games did Dak Prescott miss? And I want to know how many games. Have Carson Wentz ever played an entire season? Let me know in the chat box, Cowboy Nation. I want to know, man. I want to know whether or not did this guy named Carson Wentz ever played a full, complete season. It's crazy, Cowboy Nation. It's crazy when we start to look at this. It's crazy when we start to dissect this. It's crazy when we start to look at everything from A to Z. My thing is, will the Cowboys be able to repeat as the NFC East champs? Yes, I believe that this team finally got the big picture. I think that on the defensive side of the ball, if we start talking about our defensive backs, we solid in that. If we start talking about our safety play, we're solid as it relates to Xavier Woods. Now, as far as insurance packages, we got George Iloka. Not saying that he's a household name. I'm not putting that out there to the universe. But what I'm saying is that now we have depths. And a lot of people start talking about our front four. Last year, we did a decent job. Oh, excuse me, I'm lying. We did a great job. We just didn't have any depths. What we did all this offseason, Cowboy Nation, holla if you hear me, what do? We went and got some depth pieces out there. We got some people now that can fill the gaps so we won't have to run number 51 out there. And I'm not trying to use him as a punching bag all this offseason, but dog it, I'm going to use him as a punching bag. Look, we were so horrible at running the ball. Well, we were so horrible against stopping the run at the ball against the Rams and, of course, against the Colts that we had to flip my guy D-Law over to the opposite side so that we can stop the bleeding. We don't have to worry about that now, Cowboy Nation. We done fool around and got some depths. Shout out to Texas Kids. Shout out to Say Primetime. Appreciate you. Shout out to Miss Jackie. Always, we love you. The lovely Miss Jackie in the house. Say Primetime. What's good, man? Salute. Hey, let's get this thing going. Let's talk a little bit about pay the man Ezekiel Elliott. Is it time to go ahead and transition over to help this team out tremendously? Do you pay him early versus paying him too late? And this is Ezekiel Elliott. He got 2 years before his contract is up or what have you. So we will have to figure out whether or not compare some of his numbers compared to the other running backs out there. And we'll see how we can get this thing going. Bring Dez back. This is from Martin. We all love Dez, right? He's the man. Before we talk about Ezekiel, Dez is the man. But Dez, the sun done set on him right now. And my thing is for Dez Bryant to make an NFL team that he's going to have to sign up for just over or right at the veterans minimum, right? And then on top of that, so his contract will not be guaranteed because football players, football teams, they do some shiesty stuff like this all the time, which a lot of times a lot of people don't understand that. After week 1, teams can pick up a veteran player and his contract will not be guaranteed for the entire season. So look for Dez Bryant name to be circulating around after week 1. Maybe it's the Cowboys. Maybe it's the Saints. Just maybe it's the Giants. Maybe it's somebody out there who can say, okay, they need a physical wide receiver who's not afraid to go up for the ball with a good quarterback on their team or what have you that knows how to give him the ball and things like that. So Dez Bryant may get signed to somebody's team on week 2 or week 3 or something like that. He just got to continue to stay healthy and still continue to work out with my guy D-Rob. Yeah. So let's go.
Watch the dog. Touchdown, Elliott.
We'll talk about it.
That's Brad Sham with the call. And again, you heard right here at some point on 105 through the Fan. I'm RJ Choppy. He's Pat Doney of NBC's in for Sean all week. Troy and Roy alongside. The most shocking take of the week is what Pat Doney is about to spit our way.
Stop it.
And the reason that we're talking about this is I heard this clip, and obviously we all know last week it was announced that Zeke will not be suspended, at least for this incident. Win. Big time win. Obviously, this was the Vegas situation, but Roger Goodell announced that he will, not suspend Zeke. So it was broached on the television. Former general manager in the NFL of a couple of teams, Mike Tannenbaum, Dolphins, Jets, was asked, do you hit the pause button on a contract extension with Zeke at this very moment because of all the off-the-field stuff and the fact that he also has, 2 years left on his deal?
You have to have a stern, direct, and very hard conversation that your behavior is not acceptable. And even though it didn't rise to the level of a suspension, it's still not conduct becoming of a Dallas Cowboy. And again, if I was in the front office making the decision, I would hit pause on the contract extension, and I would put my efforts and energy into the good players and the players that have handled themselves the right way off the field, starting with the quarterback, Dak Prescott, and their receiver, Amari Cooper. So hopefully it's a lesson learned for Ezekiel Elliott. It doesn't happen again. But if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I have to have that conversation with him and tell him what we're thinking and why we're thinking it.
All right, and my first thought was,
all right, so they're talking about, so did not Dez Bryant, Ezekiel Elliott, so the 5th-year option is already out there on the table. So did they go ahead and cut the check? Let me know in the chat box, Cowboy Nation, so that we can go over that. Did they do that? You know, that's one of the things. Is there any breaking news on Ezekiel Elliott? Mitch Jackie says the Cowboys have picked up Zeke's 5th-year option. Okay. Standalone complex. Really appreciate it for the donation to help grow the
Will
nation.
we be able to defend Metcalf in the playoffs?
You're talking about DK Metcalf. I mean, he got to first of all, prove to the NFL that he can play on the NFL level. You know, he can run fast and all those things, standalone complex. But DK Metcalf, he got to figure out how to, first of all, make a few catches in the NFL first. You know, a lot of times we look at players coming out of college, we have a high love and grandiose adulations for them. But the reality of it is that they have not played it down yet in the NFL. And we will see how all of that Ole Miss or all of that college-style football translate over to the pros. Pay Zeke for all the work he put in, yes. But thank you, Standalone Complex. Marcelo B. Dez was great for 4 years ago. Yeah, that's a long time ago. Tom, no worries. Mark Holmes channel. I'm just in here for the moment. No worries, but thank you. Yeah, appreciate you all. All right, so let me see what I have. Tom, he says he's more grown up now. Give Dez a chance, man. Hey, I like I said before, I would love to give Desmond Bryant a chance, but the reality of it is that, you know, he hasn't played football all in a year and a half now. That's a long time. It is a long time. Let me see what we have. Really appreciate you guys for giving me the information, man, for the nation on Ezekiel. Let's see whether or not what they're saying now. I really appreciate you all. Let's listen. Let's listen. I'm almost there. And basically, let me see.
Okay, that's reasonable. That's totally reasonable. I mean,
he says Glenn Morrow says Hearns is healthy. Hopefully, offensive coordinator can get him involved. They got Hearns involved towards the latter part of last year. I mean, he was the go-to guy on third downs, sure hands catcher on third down. So, I mean, the play that he got out on, he actually caught the ball or what have you. And, of course, he twisted up his leg. Some can say it was a dirty play. It was a horrible play. But I think that he will make a comeback and show the world that he is ready. So with Dez coming off our offense, who is going off the field for Dez? Yeah, that's another deal there. Dez is the Cowboys Ring of Honor. I don't know, man. It's still too soon right now, man. We have to figure out what Desmond Bryant can do down the line as it relates to, I mean, the PR and all that stuff. I know a lot of people still have those high remarks for Dez, but it's a lot of that stuff that he said, whether it was off the record or on the record about, you know, some of the players, man, that stuff cut hard, man. You know, there's a lot of people that's going to be looking at that and they evaluate what he said about Sean Lee and the character of the team. That's a lot of stuff, man, that is going to have to be really looked over, man. And that's just the reality of it. Romo Ring of Honor too. It's going to be a minute for Romo as well. That's just the reality of it. We all love Romo, but the reality is going to be a minute for him to get into that ring. I mean, we got some players, some notable players that are not in the Ring of Honor right now. But he'll eventually get in, but I don't think that it's going to be the first wave. It's going to be a minute before he gets in as well. Quest Cowboy, really appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Dez will be eating humble pie. This is from Jackie. Yes, indeed. Bullet Bomb Hayes? Yeah. Let me just go ahead and finish this out, man. And let me see.
There are guys who have earned a contract extension and deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Zeke has earned it on the field. Whether or not you want to sign him or not is a different story because of the position that he plays.
Let me see what
But on the surface, that the idea of hitting the pause button now because he has 2 years left, because of the off-the-field stuff, and because the other guys deserve it first. Don't.
To me, I don't understand why Cowboys fans are so slow to want to sign up to pay him going forward. He is one of the best running backs in the NFL. You drafted him 4th overall a couple of years ago. He makes up 30% of their offense last year. That's the most in the NFL.
That is the most.
2,001 yards, total yards. He was 5th in receptions among running backs last year. I think that number's going up this season because he used to be a big part of the pass blocking.
Yeah.
And they let him out of the backfield more and used him in the pass game last year. He had more receptions last season than he did his first 2 seasons combined. And I think that number's going up this year.
And right there, that makes him more valuable because
he's a great receiver out of the backfield.
A running back itself is not really that. I mean, a running back is replaceable. A running back who can catch is got a lot more value.
Well, so you say running backs are replaceable, and I agree with you that most of the time running backs are replaceable. But there are 9 running backs who went over 1,000 yards last year in the NFL. 5 of them were first-round picks. 2 of them were second-round picks. And one of those second-round picks, Joe Mixon, was only a second-round pick because of off-the-field stuff. He would have been a first-round pick. He was considered a first-round talent.
Do you have those 8 off the top of your head?
I have them right here.
Okay.
Give it to
So you have the 8 as far as...
that ran for 1,000 yards.
Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott was first.
Okay.
Saquon.
Okay.
Todd Gurley. Joe Mixon. Chris Carson was a 7th-round pick.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey. Derrick Henry was a 2nd-round pick.
Right.
Adrian Peterson. Phillip Lindsay went undrafted. That's the 9 players that went over 1,000 yards last year, 5 of which were first-round picks, 2 of which were second-round picks. So 7 of the 9. So the odds are that if you want a running back that's going to go over 1,000 yards, you need to have a guy you took in the first 2 rounds. Then you look at it and you say, well, how is he done on a yards per game basis? Because that matters. Remember, he did not go over 1,000 yards in year 2 of his career because he was suspended for 6 games with the Roger Goodell crazy, whatever you think of that. The point is he almost went over 1,000 yards anyway. So you got to go on a yards per game basis. Here's the list in NFL history of running backs who have had more yards per game to start their career.
Now, for our team in particular, the thing is we are a run-first team. So I hear a lot of times, we get counted against on the actual, I guess, if you look at the total picture, we get counted against on the quarterback play of not passing over 4,000 yards or well off into 30 touchdowns. That's not our cup of tea. But if you look at Ezekiel Elliott, we get also the inverse of that argument, saying that, well, the only reason why Ezekiel Elliott got those amount of yards is because we run the ball all the time. And, it's kind of crass for them to say that, but it's a story of a different day. But let's go ahead and listen to what they have to say.
For the first 3 years of their career. Here's the list.
Go ahead.
Number 1 on that list is Eric Dickerson. Number 2, Earl Campbell. 3, Jim Brown. 4, Edgerrin James. 5, Ezekiel Elliott. 101.2 yards per game rushing, and this doesn't factor in the pass-catching ability now.
True.
Through his first 3 seasons of his career. The guy has been phenomenal. Now, most running backs age quickly. I get that, and that's why most people that are anti this stance are yelling at me through their radio or the radio.com app, which, by the way, you can listen to the Sean and RJ show for free every single day in the radio.com app. The point is, they're yelling at me because running backs don't age well. And I agree with you, a lot of times that happens. But there are exceptions to the rule.
Yes.
Let me give you a couple of guys who stand out along those lines.
Real quick, though. Yes, there are exceptions to the rule, but you can't sign a guy because there are exceptions to the rule.
Unless you think you might have the exception to the rule here. And let me give you the other guys and why I think that Zeke fits into this category. I think he's built similarly in some ways to these guys in recent. These are just the 3 guys that came to mind that I looked up who are very comparable to me, and I think Elliott very well could be similar to and have some durability that compares to these guys. Adrian Peterson went over 1,000 yards every season but 2 from his year 22 to age 30. Marshawn Lynch went over 1,000 yards every season but 2 from when he was 21 till he was 28. Frank Gore went over 1,000 yards every season but 3 when he was 22 until he was 33 years old. Elliott is still 23 years old. So to me, what I'm looking at if I'm the Cowboys is, what if you could convince him to take a little less than what Todd Gurley got, the $14 million a year he got, to add on to the end of the 2 years that are left in his contract, to where you're signing him up to be your running back until he's 28 years old.
So what is the number? Because
what's that?
The number is so important in this case, and that's why I want to come back to that number, because we got the guys who all ran for 1,000 yards, and we got the guys you named in terms of,
so here are the running backs.
Lynch and all those guys.
Yeah, let me give you the numbers right now here, just off real
what's
quick.
the number you want to give him?
Well, I would say, let me just tell you the top 3 paid running backs. There are only 3 running backs who make more than $8 million a year this season in the NFL.
Yes.
Gurley makes 14.3. Le'Veon Bell makes 13.1. David Johnson makes 13. I don't think it's crazy to say that he should be paid what David Johnson is paid if you're adding on to the back end of keeping this rookie deal for the next 2 years. And if you look at it, you say you add on 3 years on the back end of the next 2 seasons that he has, he gets the guarantee, or whatever you want to call it, some financial security for those 3 years. And the Cowboys look at it and they're saying, we still get arguably the best running back in the NFL on a rookie contract for the next 2 years, and you have a guy who is going to be motivated. He's going to be motivated. He's that kind of a dude. I'm not worried about the motivation.
My only thing is with that's a good analogy. That's a good, gumption to put out there for Ezekiel Elliott. That's good. That's good, actually. But my thing is Ezekiel Elliott already lost so much money. I mean, he don't have the endorsement deals like others. He had to create his own T-shirt business in order to make some money on the side. And then if you look at the total picture, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, we might squeeze him, though. Like you said, he might give him the 5th-year option, squeeze him out completely until he's dried up, and then say, you know what? We're going to give you the DeMarco Murray treatment. They might do Ezekiel Elliott like that. How you guys feel? Post that down below. Put that in the comment box, man. Do you guys feel like they're going to do that to Ezekiel Elliott, or they just going to say, okay, we're going to give you wide receivers money, and we're going to pay you north of what you're asking for, and we're going to see how this thing can rock out, because you are 23 years old. You had your mistakes. You had your pitfalls. You had your trials and tribulations. You had everything that was going against you with the Roger Goodells, and I know I already said on record that Jerry Jones spoke ill against Roger Goodell about Ezekiel Elliott. Remember, he said, hey, Ezekiel Elliott is not being treated fairly with that first situation. But it's a thing like Miss Scott and Pro said, Zeke can't be trusted. Shout out to Miss Scott and Pro. Really appreciate you for tuning in to the nation. Cowboy Nation, how do you guys feel? Do you think that the Cowboys are going to go ahead and pay Ezekiel Elliott the full deal? Do you guys feel that Ezekiel Elliott should get paid? Is he mature enough? I want to know your thoughts, Cowboy Nation, as this time expires. I really appreciate you all. Thank you all for tuning in to the nation. The topics for today: will the Cowboys have the chance to repeat as NFC East champions? Are we worried about any of the other teams that's peeping behind us? Looking through our window, looking through the keyholes of the doors to see how they can get inside of being the NFC East champs. So far, the teams that's on our heels, like the Giants, they on our heels as it relates to 4 Super Bowls, right? And then the Redskins got 3, and the Eagles won 1 Super Bowl, and you thought that they done solved world peace. Eagles talking all that cash money. Ooh, we got the number 1 offensive line, so I don't give a care. So bring your number 1 offensive line out here to Arlington, Texas, and we'll beat you down too. Or we'll come out there to Philly and we'll beat you guys down again. Bring that number 1 offensive line. Bring the best quarterback in the NFC East, and we'll beat them down too. Bring all of that heat. Keep that same energy. Keep that volumes of all of that trash talking. Keep that alive, because when we live like 95, we're going to be ready for you all, right? See, back in the days, the Giants used to talk all of that humble stuff, right? No, not humble stuff. We had to humble them. But they were talking all that cash money, right? Remember the guy that used to say, oh, he going to clamp the old boy down. He got a taste of Tavon Austin, and we haven't heard anything since from him. Remember that? I forgot his name. They call him the Jackrabbit or something like that. Boy, he got jacked up and he got his stuff rabbit. I think his clique somewhere is still out there on the field. Cowboy Nation, that's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you all are listening to absolutely nothing but the best. Let's go, Cowboy Nation. Let's go. You already know. We're going to get this thing going one way or another. Salute.